Okay, so I have switched to my iPad. I don't really know how to use this machine yet. It's pretty new, so I'm still working on learning how to use it. But I wanted to talk more specifically about the vertigo thing. And the vertigo that I'm talking about, and anyone who has had any vestibular damage will kind of understand what I'm talking about, which is just that you can't stay upright. You like really can't keep your balance, and your balance is really bad. And initially, when my injury happened, okay, I have no nerve damage and I have no paralysis. So I didn't go through any of those things at all. Those are probably very different from what I went through. What I went through was literally just, in essence, my brain was squashed and then it kind of popped back out. And then because blood is poisonous to neurons, my neurons were poisoned. That's basically what happened to me. I didn't have any nerve damage. I didn't have any paralysis to overcome. I didn't have any of those, not even really a lot of particular motor skill problems. So my problems with walking and with balance and being able to keep myself upright were all pretty well centered in the vestibular nerve damage. And of course, what I've learned since, I was very fortunate that I had my injury when I did, because the information regarding neuroplasticity was really becoming prevalent and was really getting out there, and I was able to get that information and start trying to operate from it when I really wasn't engaging with any particular therapists or anything like that particularly. So the vertigo that I'm talking about is, you feel like you're falling all the time. You're falling, no matter what, whether you're really falling or you're not falling, and your brain is giving you mixed signals. Sometimes you really are falling and you need to, stop yourself from falling over and hurting yourself. But a lot of times you're not falling. You just think you're falling. I went through things like, and this is something I still deal with. Like, for instance, there'll be a floor, like there's a floor tiled with like beige tiles, for instance. And every once in a while there'll be like a red or a blue or an odd colored tile, mixed into the field for, visual interest or whatever. Well, for whatever reason, it's still the case a lot of times for me that that tile, if I depend on my vision while I'm trying to walk, for whatever reason, my brain still interprets that tile as a danger. It interprets that tile as a possible obstacle. Like, that tile is gonna pop up and just trip you and throw you over. And I still deal with that, but it's nowhere near as pronounced as it was to begin with. Once I consciously started realizing that that is what was happening. I don't depend upon my eyes much when I'm walking. For the most part, I try to depend upon my feet, and I try to use my eyes just to get the basic lay of the land and not depend upon them, because when I do depend upon them, it actually makes my vertigo exponentially worse than when I don't. And part of that is the bending of your head. Like, a lot of people who have balance problems will just kind of stare at their feet. Of course, when I move my head, it changes my balance significantly, and that can throw me over very quickly. So it's a case of trying to consciously choose not to depend upon your vision, just to use your vision as, okay, I know something's there, but to depend upon your feet and picking them up and feeling the ground beneath your feet and literally feeling with your feet when you are stable. Another thing is the actual falling over is that your core muscles and your back muscles are very instrumental in keeping you upright. And when they're weakened, that can have a very deleterious effect on your balance. So doing exercises that strengthen your core and your back muscles, as well as your leg muscles, can help with that. But with the feeling itself, I found that through meditation, sitting meditation and walking meditation, I was really able to get control over that just by making sure that when I sit in meditation, first of all, making sure that I sit in meditation, for one thing, and that when I sit in meditation, I am sat in a way where I am completely safe. There is no possibility of my falling over and actually hurting myself. So I might be sitting on a sofa or a chair that has arms that I can grab if I need to. And then when I close my eyes and I have that I'm falling down a hole feeling, which a lot of brain injury survivors can attest that they experience, I can definitely intellectually remind myself, no, you are definitely sitting on the sofa. And I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I am absolutely safe. Doing that consciously on purpose has made all the difference, where initially, when I would close my eyes, oh, forget it, I'm going down the rabbit hole. But after years of meditation and sitting and actually making sure that I genuinely was stable, I've become very, very good at consciously being able to tell myself, no, you're definitely not falling right now. Because obviously we need to be aware of the difference between thinking that we're falling and actually falling. And that's obviously a safety issue. One thing that you absolutely have to do, though, is make sure that you are sat in a very safe and stable environment. Don't ever put yourself into a situation where you're not and try to convince yourself that you are, because obviously that is a recipe for disaster and an opportunity to really cause yourself a lot of harm. Another thing that I have done is, exercising, just exercising. We'll cover that more, but specifically for this issue, the actual exercising was incredibly important. When I came home from the hospital, I had a lot of muscle atrophy and weakness. I had lost 30 pounds. I weighed 98 pounds when I came home from the hospital. So I was very thin and very weak. And due to other emotional issues, it took me a while to really get back into the habit of making sure that I was doing that. But I at least maintained the ability to maintain some exercise and try to keep some muscle mass on myself, or get some muscle mass back. But now, in the last 6 months, I guess, really you would say, unfortunately, it took that long, 14 years, 6 months. I have been really committed to doing yoga, which is fantastic for that, and doing other body weight exercises. I am up to, I think, 125 pounds. And according to my measurements of my body, because I use weight and body actual measurements, that's all apparently muscle mass. So that's obviously, very good and very healthy. But strengthening my legs, my ankles, and my core muscles, my back muscles, and my abdominal muscles have played a huge role in being able to keep myself upright and being able to convince my vestibular nerve that I am stable and upright. One thing that you can do quickly, whether you're sitting or you're standing, if you start to get that feeling, just suck in your gut. Just suck in your gut, pull your core in nice and tight. You'll feel your back straighten. And almost all the time when I do that, whether I was really falling, which a lot of times I'm not, or I just thought I was falling, I will be able to convince myself, bring myself back to the situation at hand and recognize that I am indeed stable, safe, and not falling over. And that helps me with the nausea that also comes along with the vertigo. So if I'm sitting in meditation and I close my eyes and I begin to feel as if I'm drifting, when I can, consciously tell myself, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. The thing is, please, please, please do everything you can in your power to make sure that that's true. Don't ever put yourself into a situation of danger and try to convince yourself that you're safe when you're not. That's a very, very bad idea. Always do when you're doing yoga poses, if you're sitting at whatever it happens to be, always do everything you can to ensure your actual safety before trying to convince yourself that you're safe. Okay, so don't try to convince yourself that you're safe when you're not, would be my advice. But just doing these simple things and trying to make sure that I'm consciously keeping those things in mind has gone a long way to where I really barely experience vertigo anymore. Even honestly, when I'm going up and down stairs, I don't need to stare at my feet. I can keep an eye on my environment, looking around without having to focus completely on that. Initially, if I just changed, I stepped off of concrete and onto grass. My entire vestibular nerve just completely lost itself, and I would begin to fall over. Or I would literally just be standing somewhere. I could just be standing somewhere and just start to fall over. And doing these things consciously and making it a conscious thing has really gone a long way toward getting rid of that for me. From an emotional perspective, part of that is something to keep in mind on it. These things are things that we've been doing since we were very young. I don't know when I learned to walk. I would have to ask my mom. She'd probably tell me. She can tell me, I'm sure. Whether you're a year old, 2 years old. And from that point to the point, I was 34 years old when my injury happened. From the point where I started walking and the point where my injury actually happened, I've gone, to the point where I don't think about it. You don't think about your balance 99.9% of the time. The only time you think about your balance is when you're gonna, fall over. You don't think about walking, you just do it. So from the emotional perspective, the problem I think that I have had with it, and possibly a lot of other people are experiencing a similar thing, is you're mad with yourself because you're like, hey, why can't I just get up and walk to the bathroom? And it's really frustrating, and it's easy. It's been so easy for me to go, this stupid injury, if I hadn't lived through this thing, I wouldn't be experiencing any of this. That's how I do. It's very unhelpful, sure, but you have to recognize it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, you need to be able to go, okay, that's what I'm doing, and say it. So think about it from that perspective. Whenever you started walking in your lifetime, from that point forward, you practiced it, and then it just became second nature. You didn't think about it anymore. Now, whatever age you're at when this injury happens to you, you're in a situation where you have to actually think about walking, and you're so angry, and you're putting in so much effort, and you're mad because you're like, I've been doing this since I was 2 years old. This is so stupid. I can't believe that this happened to me. And that is, as far as I'm personally concerned, it's completely understandable. But of course I can say that because I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. So that's exactly what I want to, throw out there. And caregivers obviously also just understand that person, in my case, I know that this gets experienced a lot. My frustration comes across. I am frustrated. I am angry. And it comes across. And then other people will sometimes take it personally when it doesn't actually have anything to do with them. It has to do with me and with how I'm dealing with this issue myself. I'm angry with myself. And I'm angry with myself for putting myself in this situation, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I'm like, if I hadn't lived through this thing, I wouldn't be dealing with this right now. I've been walking since I was 2 years old. This is so stupid. I'm so sick of this. And of course now I'm 15 years in and I'm even more sick of it than I ever was, to begin with when it first happened. So now I'm kind of sick of feeling sick, if that makes sense. So those are the things that I have done. When you sit in meditation, and I highly recommend sitting in meditation. I also recommend closing your eyes at least to practice this part of it. So you need to make sure that you are sat in a genuinely safe, stable position before closing your eyes. And then when you close your eyes, if you get that wave of dizziness, that wave of nausea, that wave of I'm falling down the rabbit hole, just bring to mind your picture of your surroundings. Make sure that you try to feel your seat where it's a state of stability. Lean back, and if you're sat in a place where you actually have something behind you that you can lean back and you can touch very quickly, let your body lean back and bring yourself back upright. Pay attention to your feet and how they're planted on the floor. And after a while, and I don't know how long it's going to take. Different people, it's probably going to take differently. I know it's taken me quite some time. After a while, you will convince yourself, just by bringing your attention to those things, to those points of stability with your body, to where after a while, it just doesn't happen anymore, or at the very least, it doesn't happen anywhere near as often as it happened beforehand, and it doesn't cause you as much of a problem. I recommend doing that while you're standing up as well, but of course, keeping in mind that maybe, I don't know how to safely necessarily do that. You're holding on to something, or maybe have your back actually up against a wall before closing your eyes, so that you can feel the points of contact with your body against that stable surface. And you should never try to convince yourself that you are in a safe situation when you're not. So please keep that in mind. Never ever try to tell yourself, oh, I'm stable, if you actually are in a situation where you could harm yourself. Don't ever do that. That's very, very dangerous. So, and this comes from a point of view, I'm an incredibly cautious person. Like seriously, I am so opposed to being hurt. I'm like incredibly cautious. So believe me, I'm not just saying that like for other people. I'm like, seriously, I'm like, I hate getting hurt. Paper cut, little bruise, whatever, it doesn't matter. I absolutely hate getting hurt. So I try to avoid getting hurt in any way that I possibly can. So that's really my suggestion on the vertigo. And it takes a while, and it takes a lot of practice. And of course, you have to sit in meditation to achieve it, or stand, whichever one. In order to overcome the vertigo while you're walking, I do recommend walking meditation, which you can look it up and find out. There are plenty of great teachers out there who are teaching it. Thich Nhat Hanh is one, Noah Levine from Dharma Punks. There are walking meditation, I think, right off the top of my head, those are the only ones that I can think of with walking meditation. But it's really fantastic because this is something that I actually learned in therapy as well. While you're walking in walking meditation, you're walking very slowly. And I found for myself, walking slowly was as difficult as riding a bike slowly. So for me, when I try to ride a bike really slowly, that's when I lose my balance. If I'm going fast, I have great balance on a bike. But if I'm going slow, I'm super wobbly. Well, walking meditation is very similar. When you're walking very slowly and you're making each step very consciously, you'll find that that's when you balance, even if you don't have balance problems, if you try it. It will really cause you, maybe throw you for a loop. So the thing is, while you're engaged in walking meditation, that you are consciously telling yourself, when your weight is on your left foot, left. And when your weight is on your right foot, right. And I still actually do that. And sometimes I have to do it actually to maintain my balance, and it's still the case now. And most of the time I think it's conscious, but sometimes I guess it's probably not. I'm actually literally just saying to myself left, right, as I'm walking. And people maybe think I'm crazy and talking to myself. Of course I am talking to myself, so it doesn't really bother me. But it is an excellent way to work on that vestibular nerve and to kind of get that vestibular nerve back into a good sense, safe sense of balance. So that part of it, I think, that's my whole video on vertigo. And again, like I said in the last video, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions or anything, feel free to ask them. And I am going to make another video later. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to upload it just like I did the last one. I don't know how much editing I'll ever do. But thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Share this video if you think that someone else can benefit from it. And I will make another video on some other issue. Maybe I'll actually ask someone wants to ask me about a specific thing that I've done. Feel free to do that, and maybe that's how I'll decide what I'm going to go with next. But that was just a place where I felt like, okay, I know I can make a positive, helpful video from that subject, because I know that I've actually done very well with that. So I'll probably make another video talking about maybe the meditation teachers and maybe the yoga instructors as well that have been the most helpful to me. And there are lots of them on YouTube who are fantastic, and some videos that you can purchase, like DVDs that you can purchase, who have been really, really wonderful and really helpful to me. So I probably will talk about them a little bit in another video. But thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Share if you think anyone can benefit. And I look forward to your comments and suggestions.